Facebook shares lower today. Needham downgrades that stock to hold from buy. They say the stock has less room to gain now because of its new privacy strategy. We've made it our call of the day. It's been a big winner. Doc, what do you do here? They're talking about executive departures, which are worrisome, more regulatory risk.
I'm more worried about the latter than I am the former, Judge. As far as departures, I think Facebook is loaded with both engineers and leaders that can step in for various silos of those businesses. The primary, of course, WhatsApp, Instagram, and, of course, the mothership. But to see some folks leaving and that disagree with the way that Mr. Zuckerberg says my way or the highway, that doesn't surprise me. I think a lot of these very smart folks would probably be offended by that. But nonetheless,
yeah, but when you get the
just like Ski Patrol, there's a million of them to jump in right after a disaster happens.
Yeah, but the people on Ski Patrol didn't invent skiing. I mean, they've lost the co-founder of WhatsApp, the founders of Instagram.
Okay. But I mean,
that's not concerning to you at all? Chief Product Officer?
We knew forever that they were going to put ads on these platforms. We collectively here on this desk and everybody on Wall Street knew this was going to happen. Some people apparently were living in denial, and I don't mean the river in Egypt, but they were living in denial that this wasn't going to happen. Obviously, it had to happen because you don't get this valuation if you can't monetize.
There's the departures we're showing right there.
Yeah,
and that's
no
not even everybody.
But
that's not even everybody.
Right.
Security officer, legal officer, communications officer, head of partnerships, news products.
Yep.
And on and on and on and on and on.
I still stand by what I said. Bigger, when you put the point to me, is regulatory oversight, is the costs of that oversight. That's what hit them hard last year when the stock fell from 215 down to where it got to, was the cost that they incurred for the additional bodies they needed for regulation and for the regulatory issues they had to address. Are they out of the woods? No, but still a great platform and very few other places to go.
I agree with you, too. I think the monetization and the idea when they bought these companies, the founders disagreed with them and kind of this is a good time for people to leave. A lot of them made a lot of money. It's time for them to move on if they don't agree with the way Zuckerberg is going, because Zuckerberg knows if the regulators go to him and say, you're not changing your strategy at all you're doing is the same old thing, he's changing and he's moving a ship. I like the products. I don't like people are leaving.
So no matter what happens, I hear you both saying they get the benefit of the duopoly doubt, so to speak.
Yes.
There's only so many places to go. You got Google and Facebook, and they can have a million executive departures. They can be under all of this regulatory scrutiny. But at the end of the day, stock's cheap, company's great. Where else are you going to go? Buy it. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
has that summed it up for you like that?
It's a little oversimplification. But if you look at the regulatory part,
it was almost like Goodfellas without the swearing. You know, like kind of like rapid fire.
Nobody knows what the regulation's going to be, and that's the big overhang. Right? So,
top line growth is still going to be 20% in the next couple years, which is, where do you find that? They're one of the top advertisers in the country. That's not changing. And they're monetizing some of these other assets, Instagram, that they haven't been able to do as significantly as some of the other platforms. So
well, you get 1,000
CFR,
ads in your Instagram feed every day.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Yeah.
It takes longer to go through.
Yeah. Or choose what you want to get advertised to as well.
Pete,
yeah, I get that.
What do you think, Pete?
You know, I tend to be with the rest of the desk on this, Scott. I mean, I look at this as there are departures.
Shocking.
These are important people. Well, but they've got these departures,
brother, right?
but. He is the older brother. Okay. But I will say this, you know, the stock took some major hits when Zuck came out a few earnings ago and he talked about the amount of money that they were going to put towards a lot of what the changes are going to be with privacy, with regulatory, all the things that everybody wanted them to do. They put out the money to do it, right? So they took a hit then. Now I think what you're seeing is a hit because of the fact that as these folks are leaving, people are concerned. I think they shouldn't be as concerned because some of this was foretold to us already. You go back to December, Scott, and you'll see that Zuck has said, look, these are going to remain separate platforms and we're going to monetize, end of story. And those that didn't want to go with that are the ones that are now, especially most recently, the last two, that's why they're leaving. They're leaving because they wanted this messaging system to go within all the platforms, and that was not something that he wanted to do.
I get it, but they're still leaving. But they're still leaving.
Not only that, I mean,
when you're losing top talent, that doesn't matter.
They just allowed me to add my Facebook and my Instagram contacts into each other's services. So that is actually happening irrespective of what was originally opposed by Mrs. Zuckerberg. That happened to me just yesterday. The other thing I'd say is I'm not sure that the pivot towards private messaging, when you have a public social entity that was supposed to be the original design of this, and listen, there's no way I'm smarter than Mark Zuckerberg. I'll say that right up front. But the notion that, Facebook was designed to be a social network and now is pivoting towards private, and I don't mean privacy.
Which even they say they don't know how to monetize yet.
And which would be very difficult. How do you privatize? I mean, how do you monetize private messages? That seems to be somewhat difficult or problematic, given that it's supposed to be private. What I would also say is I don't know if they're not, by doing that, creating an opportunity, not that you could replicate 2 billion users, but if they're not creating an opportunity for someone else to try to challenge them in the social setting. I mean, MySpace is gone. There's nobody else out there right now. But there might be somebody who says, listen, okay, what if we provide a secure public network for people to, again, reestablish their connections with friends that doesn't have some of the issues that Facebook currently has?
I'm only suggesting that one of the principles of the bear thesis on Tesla is the large number of executive departures. Now, those executive departures by number far outnumber what we're talking about here at Facebook, but nonetheless, at what point does that become a concern to investors to where you say, okay, on this end the stock is cheap, I get it, but what in the world's going on at the upper echelons of that business?
If Facebook, or rather if Tesla, Judge, would have done more than just the Solar City acquisition, if they were so acquisitive as Facebook has been, bringing in teams, and then those founders have departures, which is natural, I think, in the evolution of things. I think Tesla would have had a lot more departures even than they've had now, because Mr. Musk is so difficult to deal with. But I think to see Facebook buying these, billion-dollar platforms, $18 billion that they spent for the second one, I think that's it's natural that these guys might say, I got better things to do than to take crap from Zuck all day.
All right.